everyone. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. Being a single mom is a hard job, but it gets increasingly more difficult when your child starts developing superpowers. That's the case in the new Netflix series, Raising Dion, when a 7-year-old boy starts exhibiting mysterious abilities that his mother just can't explain. Alisha Wainwright and Jason Ritter are here to talk about the show, but first, check out the trailer.
Your dad was traveling so much that year that he made me this video.
How's Dion doing? I miss my little man. I'm telling you, Nicole, that kid is something special.
You're such a special kid. You're charming, smart, very handsome.
Mom.
Pat said you were asking about your dad.
My mom won't tell me what happened. Just says it was a storm. Mister! I've got your doll! Dad!
Something is happening with Dion. We should figure out how to get it under control.
How long do you think you can keep this up? The government is tracking people who got superpowers.
I know a few things about Dion. The storms are drawn to your son.
Where is my son? Ma'am, where is my son? It's you and me. You and me.
Put your hands together for Alisha Wainwright and Jason Ritter. I'm so happy to be sitting here with you guys because I just finished the first 2 episodes of Raising Dion and I have so many questions. It is such, it just draws you in right away. First of all, the little guy who plays Dion is amazing and so captivating. And the story is so original because we never really get to see the origin stories of like superheroes when they're kids. So I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. Is that what kind of drew you to it? Is the kind of the unique perspective it had?
Well, selfishly for myself, what drew me to the story was Nicole's character. Just because I saw so much of the young women around me that were mothers and are mothers and my own mother in her kind of fearlessness and trying to protect her kid. And then, of course, beyond that, I love genre and I love that he is so young and like what an incredible gift to be able to have superpowers at 7, you know, that's really cool. So I think it's one of those scripts that I read that had a lot of elements for everybody. And you always want to be a part of a project like that because you can kind of hit a wider audience.
For sure. Yeah. And this is based off of a comic book, right, by Dennis Liu?
Yes.
So did you guys check out that comic book and are there similar, you know, is it similar, is it different? In what ways did is this different, I guess?
It is similar. I mean, it's all the characters are in there, but it definitely it was like a springboard. It wasn't a comic book that had multiple issues for years, and you know, like a so there was a lot of things that they could fill in and put together, and a lot of surprises, and also completely enjoyable if you haven't read the comic book. But it is fun to also read the comic book.
Did you guys read the comic book?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Was that like good source material?
Well, it's kind of funny. When I read the project, I read the pilot first and was like, oh, this is so cool, like amazing. I had was in conversation with production, and then one of my girlfriends told me like, oh yeah, that trailer when it came out was so cool. I was like, what? So I actually had to go and find it. And on my own, I don't know how I didn't know that it was based off source material, but I was thankfully able to read it and watch the teaser concept and get a sense of what Dennis was trying to create. But, you know, there are elements of the characters that are different, and where the story takes place in time is different. But I think it was a great jumping off point. And then with, you know, the writers and Netflix, they kind of molded it into what it is now. Yeah, yeah.
So let's dig into the characters a little bit. You mentioned you play Nicole, who is this fiercely loving mother. And again, I like this perspective because very rarely do we get to see the parents of a superhero. They're usually removed from the picture, but she's there fighting for her son. You said that's what drew you to the project, but what else can you tell us about who she is?
Well, you know, some mothers choose to be single and some don't. And whatever brought you to that journey, it's incredibly difficult to do that by yourself. And I think I am so proud to be a part of a project that puts young mothers looking out for their children in the forefront and in a positive light. I think that it's an inspiring story that mothers that are in a co-parenting situation can still appreciate. And even if you aren't a parent, I'm not a parent, but you have someone in your life that you look to as a mother figure, and they look out for you and are a source of guidance. And I think, yeah, that's what I mean. And when I read the script, I called my mom. I mean, I really connected with it on that level. And I never call my mom about projects because, you know, it's kind of like opening Pandora's box. They're like, we'll ask you about it incessantly. I'm like, no.
Did you get the part yet?
No, stop asking me. And with this, I was just like, I think you'd really like it. And I walked her through the story, and she started telling me what it was like, you know, being scared for me and wanting the best for me. And in that way, I think it'll connect with people on an emotional level.
Yeah, I just saw the first 2 episodes, so it's still sort of unveiling itself. But in the trailer, we can see that she is also fighting for his protection, probably as his powers grow or people start to learn about them. So I already in the first 2 episodes, I can see that fierceness in her, and I love it. And for you, you play the Godfather.
I do play the Godfather.
Pat.
Make love and you can't refuse. Yeah, I do. I play. So I embarrassed myself just there. That was so dorky.
You do my Godfather impersonation?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yours is better than that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I play. So Michael B. Jordan plays Mark, who's Dion's father, Nicole's late husband, and I Pat was his best friend. They've known each other since 8th grade. They were coworkers, and I thought it was a really beautiful story, and I think that also at the center of it, there's this kind of loss that I think is, a loss of like a powerful personality, and I think that's so tough when like kind of the hub of the wheel seems to kind of fall apart, and now, Nicole's trying to do this on her own. That was in this case, this wasn't her plan to do this alone, and so, she's ends up having to, people come in to try to fill that void that can never fully be filled, but, you try your best.
Yeah. Pat is such a lovable character because, like you said, he was sort of the Robin to the Batman.
For sure.
But then with the little guy, he's stepping in as the Yoda or the sort of spiritual guide.
Different type of secondary character.
Different kind of. Yeah. But he is the support for the family as well, which you said, like, when a family does go through a loss, you do see the people show up. And
absolutely.
He's his own kind of superhero.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about it is there's also that thing when you're raising a child and you have your ideas of how you wanted to do it and what the rules are. It can be a blessing and a curse when you have help from someone who doesn't follow the rules that you've set for it. It's sort of frustrating.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting dynamic as well. You're like, thank you for taking care of my son, but you clearly violated the no dessert rule, and that's
we did not invite you over. Please go home.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You just added 3 hours to putting him to sleep, so thank you.
I'm an aunt, so I do that regularly.
Yeah.
And it is the best.
It is the best. Just rile them right
Sugar
up
'em
before you go home.
Leave them at home. That's how you do it.
Exactly.
You mentioned Michael B. Jordan, who is also an executive producer on this project. So what was your relationship with him throughout this? How involved was he? I know he's in some of the scenes, but not all of the scenes. So what was sort of his involvement with the project?
So this project is years in the making, way before Jason or I became involved in it. It was a concept that was crowdfunded. And Dennis Liu created this teaser and comic book based off this crowdfunding, and then caught Michael's attention and Macro Productions, and they brought it to Netflix and started developing it years ago. And so it's been a long time coming. So when I met everybody, they had such a deep connection to the story and to the project because it had been with them for so long. So at that point, most of the characters were fleshed out. The idea, the tone was developed, and so it was really wonderful to kind of come into a machine and relationships that have been made over years of creating the concept of the show. And so it's wonderful to be a part of a production that had a clear vision. And then also, acting with him is an incredible, he's a movie star, and he brings that star power to the show, which I hope will attract people to it. But beyond, being an actor in it, is he was trying to create space in the comic book and genre zeitgeist for young Black children. And I think that what he's doing is empowering, and it's encouraging not only myself, but other people in the industry to kind of follow his lead. And for that, I really admire him.
The Afrofuturism is a phrase I'm hearing more and more, and it is about, the Black community sort of embracing sci-fi in the future. And so this is like the perfect bringing of all that together. There's a scene in the second episode where the little guy is like trying to figure out his costume, and he's wearing his do-rag. He's wearing his do-rag and he puts on his goggles, and I was like, that's gonna mean so much to so many little Black boys.
I hope I see that Halloween costume.
Oh my
on
God. I know,
children.
me too.
It's so perfect because if a 6-year-old can make this costume, hopefully I will see people put this costume together. You could do it in under $10.
I wanted to do it. I was like, this is so easy and so cute, and again means so much in just what it represents visibility-wise. I just don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah.
It's so cute. And on terms of visibility, also his little best friend Esperanza.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God,
Just
she's
amazing.
such
the cutest
a scene
child.
stiller.
Just wait, everybody. She is amazing. She's like just a light in the world.
And charming, and just really took to acting in a way that I was like, girl, you are born to do this. She, kids, they have issues. They want to look at the camera. They kind of get confused. They lose focus. Every scene, she's just completely invested, knew all her lines, and gave all the enthusiasm that was completely appropriate, because Esperanza's character is Sammy Haney. She is absolutely just being herself. And just a treat. And watching the kids together, it just warms my heart.
It is. I want to know what the conversations were on set, because she's a little girl in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. She's living with a disability. There's even comments about her being invisible. Yeah. And I think that's so important, because we are, I think, at a point where we're pushing for more visibility for that community. And so was that a conversation of casting, or?
Well, I think one of the beautiful ways in which the show deals with it is that she talks about her invisibility and feeling like that, but not necessarily. She doesn't ever talk about her disability. It's not even really mentioned. But the invisibility is something that most of us can identify with, and that feeling of being kind of out of the main group, or something's different about me. And one of the beautiful things about that character in particular is she's like, yeah, this is what it is, but I'm not sad about it. This is just what my life is. And she kind of encourages Dion to be himself as well, and to stop trying to squelch down all the things about him that make him different and special and a superhero, and just to make some friends who are kind of jerks anyway. And so I think that was there's some of these messages in the show that are so beautiful and subtly woven in, but Esperanza and the way Sammy played her is a huge part of that, because there's no part of her that's like, I'm embarrassed, or,
she's not hindered by it.
Yeah, she's just she's so much fun, and yeah.
And I think one of the themes about the show is what makes you different is your power. And I think whether it's having superpowers, or having to use a chair, or being a single mother raising a kid, these are all attributes that make you overcome adversity and make you a better person, because you work through that and you come out the other side with positivity and with joy. And I think, the show kind of hits it from several different angles. And, I hope when people watch the show, they take away the theme of what makes you different. What song is that? What makes you different?
There's about
makes
90
you
songs.
beautiful. Is it like an NSYNC song or
be. It
Backstreet
sounds
Boys?
right.
Yeah. They should just play that over the
I
Raising
was
Dion.
gonna jump in. I like have no idea what song it is, but I wanted to support you. I was like, yeah. Good one.
I can't sing, so sorry for you guys.
I can't either, so we'll move on.
I can. No.
Can you sing as the Godfather?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just gonna deep embarrassment pit. Yeah, no, I think it's I think imagine how embarrassing it must have been to be that first long-necked giraffe. And then everyone's like, "Whoa, it's so awkward," and you're like, "I can get these leaves up here though. That's pretty cool." And then all of a sudden they're all gone, and yeah.
I see what you're trying to do there.
Again,
but you got there.
You're
Yeah, it's
Or that
fine.
little
There you
fish
go.
with the legs. How embarrassing in middle school, but then here we all are because of that fish.
Evolution, guys. Evolution. Didn't know you were going to get a science lesson today, did you? Speaking of science, that is a huge part of this show.
Yes.
There's a lot of sci-fi themes, a lot of things flying around. You specifically, you're like wet a lot and climbing things. Did you expect the sort of physical part of this to be so intense?
Well, I had just come off a project that had a lot of like stunts and
You know the project. You say Shadowhunters.
yeah, and they encouraged a lot of like physical aspects of being that character, and so I was kind of used to it at that point. And honestly, like I think when you ground a sci-fi like superhero story, you're always dirty. Like, it's not like, in Superman where like buildings are exploding and like he comes away from it and he's just like has this beautiful glisten. There's a space for that. But in this story, she ends up with bruises and, and covered in mud regularly.
I want to know, what is it like when things are flying around you? Because obviously that's like done in post. But are you just like, do you feel kind of crazy that you're just like swatting at things that aren't there?
Yes, but also if you judge yourself, you'll never sell it. So there's this part of my brain that just shuts off what anyone else in the room will think of me, and I just go into this part and like fully commit to what it is that I'm imagining is happening. Because if you don't sell it, then in post they have nothing to set you up against. So, you're swatting at nothing, and if you're just kind of like loosely doing it, it's not gonna look right when they cut it together. So I learned that, in doing VFX, you gotta go there, and then they will meet you and set you up. So then when you look at it, you're really selling it. Yeah.
Can you relate to that? Were there things flying around you? And
Yeah, and it takes a certain amount of trust, because you could go like this, and then they don't animate something in there, and then you're like, now you're making me look awkward, like I just had like a twitch or something like that. So you do have to trust them that they will watch your eyes. And they kept on saying to us, like, if you look at something, just be specific. If you look at something and you see it floating, we'll follow your eyes and create it. And then they did such a wonderful job of doing it, where even though I know that nothing was floating around in front of my face, you watch it and you kind of forget that. It really feels like we're there with these, balls of energy and all these incredible things.
does that surprise you when you watch it back? Because I'm just so impressed with, Netflix has continued to just like level up.
Oh, yeah.
And the special effects in this are cinematic. They're
For sure.
so well done. So
They're
did you guys have that
incredible.
reaction when you watched it as well? Like, oh my God, they created that out of what we did?
I saw the concept art and I was just like, that looks so cool. And everyone's kind of going off, at least from my understanding, you go off the concept art because everyone has to have the same baseline to then create the reality that you see on TV or in your movie. So when I saw the concept art, they were so specific, and like my favorite one to look at was the fish one, where like you just see these fish floating, and then the next one you see them covered in these little water balls. And I was like, how cool is that? And then it made it a lot easier to kind of imagine that. And especially for Josiah, whose imagination is so wide and vast, you have to kind of like guide him to what to think about. Like, well, here's what it's going to look like, and this is where it's going to be. So don't forget to look over here and up there, because they're going to be over your head. And so some of his shots, like, I wish, in some like deleted scenes, you'll probably hear me going, and look up, and oh my gosh, it's over here too. And no, wait, turn around, because it's over there. Like, it's a lot of teamwork trying to help him, recreate some of his reactions.
But what, I mean, you couldn't pick a perfect co-star for a show like this than a little kid whose imagination is just sort of endless.
Apparently, he came into the audition and he was like, "Lucky you, because I am a superhero." And you can see in the show when he's like concentrating, it really feels like you could expect an actual like ball of energy to form. He really is so there in that feeling. Yeah.
If you guys could choose a superpower, what would it be? There's so many good ones.
Oh boy, there are so many good ones.
We're gonna toss this back to you too, because so you think while we think.
Oh, I've got mine.
Oh, you've got.
Okay, you start.
I came prepared.
Oh, I have about 20 that are my favorite.
I really like. Is it telekinesis when you can read minds? Or
Yeah,
when you
no,
can-
telekinesis, you can move. Telepathy.
Oh, telepathy.
Yeah.
I would have
You would know that.
telepathy because what my job is, right, is like talking to people all day. And I think it would be so cool to know what's going on inside your heads and then be like, so you're hungry, huh?
No.
No, it's like, you want pizza.
actually
Yes,
Just, like,
I
really,
do.
That
like-
interview was just so authentic. It's like she knew me.
Exactly.
I would like quickly become Oprah if I could read people's minds. It would be
absolutely.
fantastic.
That would be cool.
Well, I scuba dive, and so the human body can only go so far down. I would love to see what it's like all the way on the bottom of the ocean floor. So it's kind of a dorky answer, and not really saving the world or anything. I'll probably just find a lot of plastic down there, but I would still want to go.
I'm gonna outdork you because there's like some scary shit down there.
Yeah, I
Have you
imagine.
seen those documentaries?
Yeah.
You want to go down?
Some
Yeah,
of those
those-
fish that like
those,
with
like,
all the teeth.
Yes. And they're going to be just as freaked out to see me, I would imagine.
I think what'd be cool is like flying, but not like just Superman sort of flying, but just you like take off your jacket and then you just have these giant like eagle wings spread out, and then you can that way you don't have to do this. You can like sort of be texting while your wings are doing the work and get wherever you need. But I think at a party it would be fun, or like in a fight, like when someone's threatening you, just
So menacing.
scare them at least fast enough to fly away.
Yeah, I think that would probably scare. They'd be like, "Nah, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
We're even."
When you're on a date, you just like pick out a feather and be like, "This one's for you."
For you. She's like, "There's blood on that." Sorry. Sorry. Some of them have blood. Some of them.
We're gonna go to questions.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds.
Who do we have first? First one is Twitter. Neen Wolf asks, as the lead on this show, did you feel any type of responsibility to lead and set the tone both on and off set?
Well,
After you. That was funny. I had a lot of great friends who have a wealth of knowledge about the industry and working in television for years. And I had one of just a true seasoned veteran who has been a lead of his own show and is just one of the nicest guys I've ever worked with. So in the makeup trailer on one of my first days, I was just like, so tell me everything about your experience, and I'm just gonna kind of model what I do after you because people seem to really like you. And it's true. If you just, I think one of the best bits of advice I ever got was never complain. To just as a general thing. If you have issues, you go to the right people and you talk to them. But as a just hanging around, mingling, that's not the place to create a negative space. You want to create a positive space that lets everyone feel like they can move freely without feeling bad. And once I heard that, I noticed that I don't really complain, but a lot of people do. And so I tried as much as I could to kind of like quell that, or if you have a real serious issue, we can talk about it. And then that's usually when people are like, oh, actually maybe it's not that bad. I'm like, okay, cool, because let's keep this place fun, especially we have children running around, and a lot of our crew had families. We had 4 baby births through our shooting schedules. So I didn't really feel pressure. I kind of felt privileged, and like I said, I had a lot of people to run to, and I needed questions answered.
and she did set a lovely tone on set, and it really does it filters down through everyone. If you have someone who's there every day, most of every day, who's just sort of poisoning the atmosphere, it really affects everyone. And Alisha worked so hard and just had such a wonderful, positive attitude. And it wasn't the easiest to shoot some of the time, but you wouldn't have known it.
I would imagine some of the days get really long. You guys are like out in the elements and in lakes and
I have
forests.
to post this video. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, and me and an art department and script supervisor were all dancing mindlessly in the dark because our one of the what I forget the name of his role, but he does playback, and so he just put music on with his like lights all around his station. So we were just like in our own little club because there's no way else to get through it but to dance. So
Uber Eats probably doesn't deliver out there. You know what I mean? So
no, it's not as accessible as LA.
Exactly. Who has our first question in the audience? Right here.
I was wondering about your transition from the show Shadowhunters to this show, and since there's like similar supernatural parts, and how you prepared yourself for that.
Well, obviously, having a show canceled is incredibly disappointing and not something that a lot of us were anticipating. So that was a huge bummer. But obviously, I got incredibly lucky to get a completely different story, but with a lot of this attraction of genre that I liked from Shadowhunters. And where it's not, Shadowhunters, I would say, is more sci-fi fantasy. Raising Dion is more sci-fi. So I got to learn the differences between that, and also my character got to be a little bit more well-rounded because we had the time to really delve into the nuances of what made her character who she is. My character on Shadowhunters was part of an ensemble, so you kind of have to share the stage with everyone's very complicated stories. So I felt really lucky that I got to kind of expand my character and learn a lot more about her. But yeah, I mean, it was a hard thing. The fans of Shadowhunters were so disappointed when it got canceled, but I think the cast has moved on almost very quickly to do other projects, and I hope, even though the stories that they love are, you know, ending on television, you know, you can follow our personal careers and journeys as we continue to tell stories.
Oh, I think they will. The Shadowhunters fans are the best. We've had the cast
best
here. Yeah, amazing fans. So I'm sure they'll follow you guys. Last one.
Hi. What qualities of Maya did you bring, if any, to Nicole? And like, are they similar? Are they different in any ways?
That's a great question. I think one of Maya's defining characteristics is her loyalty. She's fiercely loyal. And I think, you know, loyalty and like pack loyalty, it's really family. And so Nicole's whole life is her child and it's her family. So in that way, I think they're incredibly similar. But whereas Maya's very stern, she's kind of no nonsense. Nicole is very flighty. She's a dancer. She kind of can't keep a job, like, you know, and she has all these characteristics that make her complex and kind of she creates her own obstacles sometimes. Whereas I think Maya's a little bit more determined, focused, and like, you know, Maya probably makes lists. Nicole doesn't make lists.
Isn't Maya also like a werewolf?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, obviously. And, you know, and in Shadowhunters, there are characters that don't have supernatural elements. They're, you know, what they call mundanes. And so I got to play a character that has powers. And Nicole's one of the characters that doesn't have powers on Raising Dion. So that's kind of fun, too, to play the opposite side. It makes it a little bit more grounded.
I will say that I do think she has powers because I think single moms are superheroes. I'll say it again. Single moms are superheroes.
Absolutely.
And I love seeing one represented. Yes.
Yes.
Give it up. I love seeing one represented on the screen. And I love this story so much. Like you mentioned, Jason, everybody has heart. Everything is so heartfelt. And there's so many different themes I think a lot of people are really going to connect to. So congrats on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And if you guys want to check it out, Raising Dion premieres on Netflix on October 4th on Netflix. Put your hands together for Alisha Wainwright and Jason Ritter.
Thank you.